It's a privilege to be here. Two of my brothers went here, and you may have known one of them, but I went to Seton Hall Prep, and I've often thought like how if my life would have been different if I was here. I don't know. I like to think it wouldn't have been that much different, but to be able to come here and share my story with you guys and hopefully inspire one of you, maybe you'll think of me before you make that next decision. You know, that's why I do this. I've been doing this for a few years now, and ultimately, I just want one kid to second guess that peer pressure. You know, when I was in high school, my friends look back now and they look at my story and where I ended up, and they thought I would never be that person. I grew up 10 minutes down the road in Harding, and in my life, you know, as a young kid, life was seemingly good on the outside. My youngest brother, Paul, he was born in June 2001. I remember being in the hospital. I was 9 years old, and my dad saying, like, this is it, you know? They wanted a girl. 4 boys later, they never got that girl. But the fact of the matter was, our family was complete, and finally, for the first time, I think we all kind of sensed that. You know, my mom had a few miscarriages in between, and my youngest brother wrapped up the family. My life would forever change a couple months later. I was sitting in a classroom like this. You know, I was 9 years old, nearly 20 years ago. And 2 teachers, you know, teaching whatever. One comes in, tells me, can you come out in the hallway with us real quick? Okay. Figured that I got in trouble, didn't really know what I did. I was a pretty innocent kid. I also was a class clown, and I liked to get in trouble and, you know, mess around with my friends, and I was a good student, but I like to have fun. And so they pull me in the hallway and they tell me, listen, a plane hit your dad's building and he's gonna be okay. I'm like, okay. And sitting there as, you know, as a 9-year-old, standing there in that hallway, I see my other brother Nick coming towards me with another classmate of his. And both of our dads worked in the North Tower of the World Trade Center. My dad didn't make it out, theirs did. And so being told everything was okay, they're evacuating the building, nothing to worry about. We're going to take you to the separate classroom, and you're just going to kind of sit away from the class for a little bit. They were showing footage of that, and they were telling the students that our dads worked in that building, right? So almost immediately, I felt this sense of difference. I felt that I was being looked at from the outside, you know, and any sort of normalcy that I thought I could have was gone from that point on. So I go home from school that day. My mom kept me in school. She got my brother and I in school. And one by one, though, before the end of the day, I saw kids getting plucked out of the class. You know, parents coming in crying. And automatically, I'm sort of thinking to myself, something isn't right here. But inherently, I thought, well, you know, they said my dad's safe, so he must be safe. Little did I know that, you know, 50 miles away in New York City, my dad said goodbye to my mom. And he said goodbye to his brother, too. 3 minutes after the plane hit, he made that first call. He told my mom, a plane hit the building, they're evacuating it, I'm okay. My mom never expected phone calls from my dad during the workday because he didn't call from his cell phone. He was busy, he got to work, that was that. He shut everything off. And the fact that his cell phone came through when actually he had like no service in that building ever is a miracle. But leading up to that day, my dad had said he wanted to quit. He had voiced numerous times that he wanted to quit. He wasn't happy, and he wanted to find his passion in life. Whatever that may be, I'll never know. But my mom sees the phone call coming in, sees his name, and thinks he quit. And he liked to pull pranks, so she said almost immediately, like, John, this better not be some sort of sick joke. And before he got cut off, he told her to turn the TV on, and that phone call may have lasted a minute. She doesn't know. But she turns the TV on and sees the smoke billowing out of the North Tower. Starts calling him back. He's trying to call her back. One picks up, they can't hear. The other one picks up, they can't hear. There's just nothing but static. And he keeps trying. And he had a fighting spirit. And he got through one last time. And he said, Michelle, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're the love of my life. I'll love you forever. And she said, I love you. And she doesn't know if he heard those words. But my mom calls my grandmother, my dad's mom, and tells her, like, John said, a plane hit the building, and turn the TV on. And my grandparents were right off the boat from Italy. They didn't understand English that well, but turning on the TV and seeing what was going down, it was pretty easy to realize that this was very serious. My uncle comes upstairs after hearing his mother screaming and starts calling my dad. And he calls my dad 50 plus times, trying to get through. And my dad picks up the phone as if it was a normal day, just says hello. My dad and my uncle used to grab lunch downtown. My uncle had an internship there. And just like it was a normal day, hello. And he said, John, get out. And he said, Tony, I love you. And so I look back at this now, and I see the resilience that my father showed. He didn't show that he was scared. He didn't let anyone think that he was scared. And I only know what he went through just from what I've read and what I've heard. But that's something that stuck with me, the fact that he stayed strong in his final moments. And he had the courage to say goodbye when he didn't know what was going to happen next. And so I spent the next few years of my life, into my adolescence, early adolescence, captivated by my dad's story. I only knew about these phone calls. I later was to find out he had another phone call with a colleague of his, which is when the plane hit and the line cut out. But I didn't know that at the time. And I only knew of these phone calls. So I started watching these documentaries and videos on YouTube that would go into a lot of detail about 9/11 and particularly the Twin Towers. And at that point in time, all I knew was my dad made these phone calls, he dies, and they find him a few days later. And they tell us they found him, and that's it. My mom didn't want to go into any detail. I asked immediately, like, what happened? And she kind of just pushed me aside and didn't want to like go into it. And so here I am, 10, 11, 12 years old, and I'm asking the same questions over and over to the people that are close to me, particularly my mother and my Uncle Tony, my dad's brother. What do you think happened to him? You know? Did he die from smoke inhalation? Do you think he jumped? And because when I got home from school that day, when I was 9, I saw on TV an image of a person jumping from the building, from my dad's building. And it stuck with me subconsciously forever. I can visualize that entire 10-second reel right now in my head. And I thought to myself, why are they doing that? All right? It was like, what is going on that they're doing that? And so I started getting more direct, and I started asking my mom, do you think Dad jumped? Because she didn't tell me what she knew, which is that he didn't jump. And she tells me no, he didn't. And I'm like, why? Why are you saying that so powerfully? Like, why are you so sure? And she's like, he didn't do it. That's not the person he was, yada, yada, yada. But it wasn't good enough for me. And I look back now and I see this almost vindictive behavior that I have, right? That I want to know more. If you tell me no, I will get a yes out of you somehow. And so she cut it off. She cut off all conversations about that. She didn't want to talk about it. She was moving on with her life. She was dating someone new. And to me, that was it. She moved on, right? My Uncle Tony didn't want to hear it either. You know, he knew what he knew, and to him that was enough. He had enough closure. But to me, it wasn't. And so when they didn't want to talk about it anymore, someone else stepped in that did want to talk about it. Because I had other family members and cousins and stuff, and cousins that went here, that didn't know how to talk to an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid and tell them, I don't know what happened to your dad. And no one will ever know. And what are you supposed to say, right? What are you supposed to say to a kid that's asking these questions, that's so fixated on trying to find out how his dad died, and he'll never know the answers? I had an uncle who stepped in, an uncle through marriage. And, you know, this is like the part of my story that I tell, because my story isn't just a 9/11 story. My story isn't a story of drug addiction and alcohol abuse and getting sober and telling my story to try to show that sobriety is possible for people who are struggling with substance abuse. My story is a story of struggle. And the fact that working through these obstacles in my life and in all of our lives, getting through it, that's the path to clearance. That's the path to success and thriving. And it took me a really, really long time to get to this point, you know, to be so open and vulnerable with people I've never met. But I know by doing this and by being honest and vulnerable with you guys, and, you know, in spite of all I've gone through, just getting it all out there, right? Maybe one of you will remember. Maybe one of you will have the courage to talk about your own struggles. And it doesn't have to be any of the things that I went through. So, this uncle steps in, and as a kid, I'm like, I want to know more about my dad. My mom doesn't want to talk to me about my dad, and she doesn't know about the stuff that I wanted to know about. Like, I wanted to know how he was as a guy. Like, what are the things that he liked? She knew the basic stuff, but I wanted to know more. And so when I'm talking about this with this uncle, he's telling me all the things I want to hear. I can trust him, all right? I have him to go to. I don't have to go to my mom about these things anymore. I could talk to him about life, about girls, about puberty, and all these things that, are kind of hush-hush and aren't really discussed that much, with family. I think a part of me wanted a father figure, wanted someone that I could look to, talk about anything. But he had tried, kind of like approaching this topic of like sex with me, and I kind of shooed him away. But when he found out my obsession with my dad and how he died, that was the green light for him. The questions started coming more direct with him. What do you think happened? And he would say, I don't know. We weren't there. I can only imagine. And then I asked him one day, do you think my dad jumped? And he said, yeah, he did. I know he did. And I was like blown away by the honesty. I was like, he did. And instead of that being the end for me, right? Instead of that being the answer that I was looking for, the yes that I was looking for, all it did was reignite this journey of mine to find out more. And so instead of not looking at the videos and the pictures anymore and zooming in all the photos of people hanging out of the building, I wanted more. And I was determined, and I thought to myself, if I don't ever give up this quest, I'm going to get the answers I'm looking for. I wanted a story of my dad that emulated the man in the red bandana. That's what I wanted. I was never going to get it, but I wanted it. And so this uncle takes advantage of me and sexually abuses me. And I told myself as a kid, I'm not going to talk about this with anyone, right? I went to Seton Prep, all boys school. If I talked about it with the teacher, it's going to get at the principal, it's going to get to the headmaster, it's going to get to my mom, and my life's going to be over, right? How can I allow myself to have this happen? Like, why wasn't I strong enough or smart enough to prevent it? And this guy's telling me, if you tell anyone about this, they're going to think you're gay. If you tell anyone about this, it's all your fault. This is what predators do. But telling me all the things that he knew would prevent me from talking to anyone about it. He figured out a way to cut ties with every single male figure in my life, and the most important one in my life, woman figure, my mom. And I couldn't trust anyone. I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't say what I was feeling, what I was going through, how much pain I was in. And so instead, what did I do? I started drinking. I started smoking weed. But in high school, for me, I was determined to get into a really good college. I had straight A's and played soccer, and then I quit. And I quit because I told myself, listen, I can't live this double life, right? At first it was like, I just smoke weed with my friends on the weekend and drink. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a high school kid having fun. I got into some trouble, brushed it off. It's fine. It's just smoking weed and drinking, I wish I had known what I know now, right? And I'm sure you've heard this a million times, I'm not going to tell you that just because you drink, you may drink now, you may not. Just because you smoke, that you're going to go into other things. That's not the case for everyone. And I didn't think it was the case for me. But I do wish that when I was your age, 15 plus years ago, when I was sitting in these same type of auditoriums, these rooms, that I listened, that I actually thought about what the speaker had to say, and think to myself before I picked up that pill or snorted that line, that wouldn't be the only time I would do it. And so I get into college, I go to Villanova. And my freshman year, I pledged a fraternity, and I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with my grades in the fall semester, but the spring semester, I was doomed. I had horrible grades. I couldn't balance anything anymore. And the kid says to me, listen, all you need is a little pick-me-up. Okay, what do you have? I had never touched a pill in my wisdom teeth taken out, and ironically being prescribed Vicodin, and not liking the way it made me feel initially. And he gives me an Adderall. He says, just take this, you're fine. You take that, 20 minutes, You'll get all your work done. You'll have focus. You'll have energy. You'll be able to, go through all the nights, all-nighters and everything. I was like, okay. So he gives me the pill. Had I known now that taking that pill that first time was going to set something off in me, and that wouldn't be the last time I would do that pill. It wouldn't be the last time I would touch a harder drug than that, right? Because Adderall wasn't enough for me. Adderall made me focus. It made me a little jittery. And ironically enough, I would sit down and write a 10-page paper, and I would spend 4 hours looking at YouTube videos and messing and doing nothing. But it gave me a feeling that I never had experienced before. I never had that experience from drinking. I never had that experience from smoking weed with my friends. That stuff just had its own effects. This got me to feel normal, and that's what I was searching for all along. And so I quickly graduate to other things, right? I'm sitting in a dorm room. I'm 19 years old. I get back from getting food with my friends. We're sitting in there. We're playing FIFA. I smoked a little weed, nothing crazy, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to my friends. I'm overhearing their conversation about blues, and they wanted to get blues. I was like, "What's blues?" I had no idea what they were talking about. I did Adderall. Then I got a prescription for it, but I stopped taking it because I didn't like how I was feeling, in the sense of I didn't like the high of being so up. I'd like to be more mellow. I stopped taking it, and they say blues. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Painkillers. Okay. And 19 years old, kid walks into my dorm room, my buddy's dorm room, and he hands a little baggie of these blue pills. I had no idea what they were. I knew they were painkillers. I didn't know how powerful they were. I had known nothing about Oxycontin and heroin and all these things, right? He gives me a half of this pill, 15 milligrams, all right? 19 years old, to the time I turned 23 years old, that 15 milligram pill would turn into 600 plus milligrams a day of Oxy, okay? It would turn into 20 plus milligrams of Xanax a day. And it would turn into an 8-ball of Coke, all right? And at night, what would it turn into? It would turn into drinking. It would turn into smoking weed. And when I'd get home from work, from my high-rise New York City job, which I hated, I would just come crashing down. I do that pill. I snort that pill, and that was the feeling I had been searching for my entire life. That was it. My brain completely shut off. I no longer was a kid from 9/11. I no longer was the kid who lost his dad in 9/11. I no longer was the kid who was sexually abused. But no one knew about that. But I did, and I struggled with it, and I fought myself to not talk about it, and I fought myself to forget. And that's exactly what it allowed me to do, forget. My addiction, just as all addictions can be and are, it took away everything from me. I would steal your wallet and try to help you find it. I became a person I never envisioned that I would become. I robbed, I cheated, I lied, I broke everyone's heart around me. And the good role model that I grew up, trying to be, right? The older brother, the person that anyone can come to, the good friend, the loyal friend, all of that was evaporated, I cared about one thing only, and it was these little blue pills. And if I didn't have those blue pills, it was game over for me. So I'm dating this girl at the time. I lie to her about doing them. I'm out partying, whatever, and we get back from the bar, and she's like, something's off about you. I'm like, I'm fine. I just drank a little too much. She's like, no, something's off. I was like, all right, yeah, I did a couple blues. She's like, you got to stop doing this. I'm going to break up with you if you don't stop. I'm like, okay, fine. So I told myself I would stop, and I did. I stopped for a few months. I had the power at that point in my life to stop. I kicked in the health center. I was dope sick in the health center. I didn't know, actually, that I was. I thought I had a cold because she also got sick. And going through opiate withdrawal compared to a cold, they're pretty synonymous. Fever, chills, legs twitching, throwing up, diarrhea, all that, right? But the main difference is that there's something that will fix that immediately. And I quickly learned that. I quickly learned that if I had that pill, it would make it go away. And so after that first time, honestly trying to move on with my life, I got sucked right back into it. I go through the majority of college from that point on, blacked out. I don't remember periods of college. I don't remember classes that I went to. I don't even remember what classes I took. My junior year, I had gone on a trip the year before, a spring break trip the year before, and I didn't bring anything with me. And there I am kicking. I'm in the Bahamas. I managed to get a couple perks, and it had nothing, it really didn't compare to Oxy, but it was enough to get me to feel okay. So I go on this trip a year later, in 2013, and I said to myself, I can't go on this trip without anything. I have to figure out a way to get these pills with me. And so what did I do? I stuffed, I think, 40 of these Oxys into an Advil bottle. I threw it in my carry-on, and I got on a plane, and I went away. Right? I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to ration this perfectly. I'm going to do a few pills a day. I'm going to leave a little bit of extra, just in case I get a little too drunk and then I want to do more. I'll have enough to back me up. I went through those pills in like 3 days. And now I'm kicking on this trip, and I'm trying to supplement it by doing massive amounts of Klonopin, cocaine, and drinking. And it's helping. But I knew one thing for sure, and that was the moment I landed in Newark Airport, I needed a fix. And I called up a friend of mine, and he's a kid I went to high school with. He went to a school in Philadelphia as well. And I said, listen, I need you to pick me up in Newark. We'll go. I'll buy you whatever you want. I need you to come with something. He's like, listen, we don't have to go together. I'll come get him before. Just give me the money when you get there. It's like, okay, sounds good. I land in Newark. I go to get my bag. I turn on my phone, and I'm getting bombarded with messages, and I'm wondering to myself, why are all these people calling me? And I start looking at the messages, and it's one after another. Did you hear about Billy? Did you hear about Billy? Can I call you? Can I call you? And the one thing on my mind is, I'm not worried about Billy right now, right? What was on my mind was getting to that car and doing what I needed to do to feel right. And whatever was going on the outside, I could deal with it once I was not sober anymore. And I get in the car. He gives me the pills. I crush them up I wrap them up in a little dollar bill, and I crush them up on my phone, and I snort them. The moment I snort those pills, I pick up the phone. Because the moment my head was clear, the moment the withdrawal went away, and it goes away almost immediately, I pick up the phone and I can handle what I need to handle. And they tell me my friend Billy died in a car accident in Mexico. He's driving on the highway, they made an illegal turn, and they got hit by a tractor trailer. He died in impact. Billy was a friend of mine from high school, played soccer together at Seton Hall Prep, and we went to Villanova together. And to have a life like his taken so shortly and suddenly, it devastated me, you know? Because here I am living a completely different life, not caring about my life. I didn't care if I didn't wake up the next day. I didn't care at all. And so I go to his services high, and doing that allowed my mom to see that something was going on with me. She confronts me and says, listen, you are clearly doing drugs. I'm like, I'm not doing drugs. I'm fine. It's like, something's going on. Please just tell me what it is. I want to help you. And I didn't want her to help me, right? But there was some sort of God shot in that moment. It was the first time I admitted it to anyone. I said, Mom, I'm addicted to painkillers. I think I need help. And those words didn't come out of me on my own. It just came out. And I checked myself into this first detox, and 5 days in, I'm taking this medication called Suboxone, and what it does is it blocks the opioid receptor. It needs to be out of your system for 36 hours or so before you can get high again. And I knew that if I'm taking this medication, I can't get high. And it's supposed to help with the withdrawal as well. Well, on day 5 of taking this medication, I get a phone call from my mom. She tells me, no died. My dad's dead. And my grandfather and I were like this, you know. My dad was the oldest. I was the oldest grandson. And obviously the oldest of my dad's kids. And we had a very, very special bond. He came from a horrible life. You know, he was imprisoned by the Nazis in Germany. He got captured in Italy, and his prisoner of war number was 9/11. And he comes to America and he starts a life, right? And he tried to provide his kids with what was a good life, and he tried his best. But the thing that we bonded over the most was my dad, and the fact that my dad came from nothing. My dad embodied what it meant to be for the American dream, right? And he was showing that. Finding out that he died, I said to myself, I'm not staying sober. I walked out of that phone call. I said, listen, I need to stop taking this medication now, to the nurse. And she says, why? Why? You have 2 more days of it. I'm like, no, I need to stop taking it now. She's like, okay, you're going to feel like shit. I'm like, I don't care. So I suffer for the next 2 days. I get out. I go home. My mom's crying hysterically, so happy to see me. I look so good. And I said, Mom, I got to go get some food with my friends. Do you have any money? She gives me some money, and I go and meet this new dealer that I had met, and I go pick up. And I'm off to the races, and I go to my grandfather's services. I'm asked to speak on behalf of my dad and on behalf of me, being the oldest grandson, right? I have a pocket full of pills in my suit jacket. A pocket, like a baggie, plenty of pills. And all I'm doing the entire time is calling my dealer, making sure she can get me more Xanax because I didn't have enough Xanax, making sure she had enough blues for me too. And I'm sitting in the front pew, my grandmother crying, consoling her, and I just keep checking my phone. I was like, I got to get out of here. And they asked me to speak, and what do I do? All right? What do I do? I'm powerless. I can't stop myself from getting that next pill. Even though I had plenty, I needed more. I needed the comfort of knowing that I had more. So I say, I can't do this. I can't speak. I'm not going to do it. I got to go. And I leave. And, I look back at that. That was like one of the times in my life where my drug addiction got the best of me. It wouldn't be the last. I finished college miraculously on time. All the while, I'm doing the things that I thought I would never do. Dealing drugs, stealing from people. The lying just that was just who I was at that point. Nothing I said was truthful anymore. But I graduate. I get this job in New York, and I say to myself, listen, I'm going to stop, right? I'm going to stop. And I try, and I can't stop. I can't stop. I get arrested in November 2014. I'm driving home from a buy, and I get pulled over for speeding, and cop pulls me over, and he's like, listen, where are you coming from? Where are you going? Whatever. I'm like, I'm going home. Just got back from my job in New York. It's 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I'm in a suit and tie with 3 ounces of weed in the car and 50 oxy pills. I say to him, listen, I haven't been drinking. I haven't done anything. He's like, it smells like weed in this car. Like, I have no idea. Like, I think I lent the car to my friend. Like, I lent the car to maybe my brother. I don't know. It's not me. It's not me. And he pulls me out of the car. He's like, listen, we're going to get a K-9 unit here. We're going to get a warrant to search this car. I was like, okay, get the warrant. You know, he gets the approval. They come. They hit on the car in like 2 seconds and open the car door, the driver's side door, and everything is right there. And they said, listen, put your hands behind your back. You're going to go to jail. And I'm sitting in the back of a cop car, 22 years old, right? I came from a good town. I came from a good family. Didn't matter that I went through irreparable things, events that, most people didn't even know about some of them, but it didn't matter, right? I had a good upbringing. I was taught right from wrong, right? That didn't matter at the end of the day. Here I am, 22 years old. I'm trying to work a legit job, and I can't let the bad habits go. And I'm sitting in the back of this cop car, and it's the middle of the fall, and I'm just looking at the lights flickering, and I'm like, how did I end up here, right? I go to the Mendham jail, and they want me to rat on my dealer. I won't do it. I'm like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. And this cop is counting the pills. Over 5 oxy pills with an illegal prescription is a felony, all right? I had 50. I said to the guy, listen, please, just give me 5 of them. I just need 5 of them. I'm already going through withdrawal in the jail. I'm sitting in a jail cell cuffed, begging this cop for the pills. My money was gone. I got the weed fronted to me. I was like, I'm so screwed. I don't know what I'm going to do. They give me my summons a few hours later. They're like, you can go. All right, they drive me to my car. I go home. It's like 3 in the morning. I was supposed to be in Long Island the next morning for a work meeting. And now all of a sudden I'm in withdrawal from opiates. I scrummage through all my stuff. I'm looking at my desk. I'm like, I got to have something here. I find a couple Xanax bars. I pop them. All that does is ease the pain for a little bit, and I fall asleep. I wake up to my mom screaming to me, get up, like this guy's here. I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't remember that I had set up a FedEx for this guy to come pick up these papers from my boss. So I'm getting screamed at to go bring out all this stuff, and like I call out of work. I'm on the phone with my boss, literally in opiate withdrawal, throwing up into a little garbage can. And he's like, "What the hell is going on with you?" FedEx guy comes, I give my mom the papers, I go back to my room. I don't tell her anything. And I spent the next 2 days in bed trying to muster up enough strength to get out and like figure out a way to get money, figure out a way to get my dealer to come to my house, and I finally get it, and I finally get what I want, and I'm off again. I have to face everything that I just went through, right? I tell my uncle, who's a lawyer, I'm like, listen, I got arrested, all right? I got arrested, I'm charged with 3 felonies, 22 years old, you know? Right out of college, right out of a good college, working in Manhattan in finance. I got charged with 3 felonies. I think I need help. And I meet with this new lawyer, and he tells me, listen, you check yourself into rehab right now, and I could probably make these charges go away for you. It's going to take a lot of work on your end. You have a history of addiction. You need to come forward about that. You need to be honest. I'm like, I'm not going to fucking rehab. Not doing it. And I managed to get my way, slowly but surely, out of all the things that he wants me to do. And in April 2015, I get put on probation. Miraculously, I was facing jail time. And my lawyer tells me, listen, in 2 months, most likely 2 months, you're going to have your first drug test. After that first drug test, you're going to have another one probably in 6 months. You're on probation for a year. After those 2 tests, they're probably not going to call you again. You just got to be good. You got to stay out of trouble, and you're fine. All right, sounds good. I call up one of my friends who's a dealer. He says to me, listen, I'm on the most severe form of drug punishment in New Jersey, and you're on like probably the least. I get a mouth swab test once a week. That's what it is for me. I go in there, I use this detox mouthwash. It gives me clean saliva. And when I go in there, I have clean saliva for 45 minutes. They swab my mouth, and I'm out. So okay. He's like, let's go to Patterson and get some stuff for you. All right, yeah, sounds good. We go to Patterson. I buy 2 little things of this mouthwash, and I buy 2 bags of fake urine for $100. And I say to myself, I'm just going to make sure I have all options there. I'm just going to protect myself, give myself a little more insurance, and I'll be good to go. I show up to this drug test after having a 2-month warning, essentially, a 2-month notice of when this test was going to be. I show up to this drug test in Dover. I'm wearing a suit and tie, right? Impeccable. And but instead I feel empty on the inside. I feel like I don't belong. And you know, like that last month, I would stand in my office in New York on the 33rd floor, and I'd look out of this office, right? And I'd look down. It was like 6th Ave, and I could see the new World Trade Center in the Empire State Building. And instead of looking out, though, I would look down, right? Because every single day I contemplated jumping. I contemplated going up to the roof and jumping, because who wants me around anymore? You know, I'm not a good person. And every single day I would walk out of these big glass doors, decide if I'm going to hit up or down on the elevator, and I would hit down. You know, I wrote a note to my mom and I said, listen, if you find this, I'm dead. It's no surprise to you, but I relapsed a long time ago, and I'm sorry for any of the pain I caused you. And leading up to that test, that drug test, I tried taking my life. I tried killing myself, and it was so half-hearted that, you know, I probably just knocked myself out. I don't remember any of it. I took a bunch of pills, snorted a bunch of pills, made sure that I kept enough just in case I woke up, so I would wake up in withdrawal and be able to get myself right again. But on this sunny day in July 2015, I walk into this drug test, and I'm sitting there looking at my phone, and I'm looking around at all these people around me, these people that I didn't think that I belonged with, you know? People that were homeless, people that were, I thought I was better than them, but I wasn't any better than them, you know? I was just like them. I had the same struggles they had. I probably shared the same pain they had, but I thought I was better, you know? Not me. And I get called in with 15 minutes left on this clean saliva that I had swished around in my mouth. And I meet my probation officer, and she's like, listen, you're living at home right now. You have a brother that's under 18 years old. If you fail this test, we can call DIFUS. I was like, okay. She's like, you have to sign all these forms and acknowledge that you agree to all this. Okay, sign them all. And I'm sitting across from her desk, and on her keyboard, she has a mouth swab drug test in the little plastic vial. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the easiest con I've ever pulled off, you know? This is the easiest one I've ever pulled off. And she stares at me in the eyes, and she's like, are you going to pass this drug test? I said, yeah, I'm going to pass. She's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm going to pass. And she's like, okay. And she bends down and gives me a cup and says, go pee in the cup. And my heart sinks, you know? I didn't bring the fake pee with me. And I pee in that cup, and I pop for everything on that test, pretty much. Pretty much everything. And I go back, and she's like, listen, I don't know if this is a cry for help. You've had 2 months to get clean. When's the last time you used? I said, 3 days ago. She's like, really? I was like, 3 hours ago? She's like, all right, well, listen, I'll give you one last shot, and if you come back in a month and you're clean, I'll drop your charges. But if not, you're going to go to jail. I was like, all right, sounds good. I go home that day. I call out of work, and I started making myself a drink. I started doing all the drugs that I had on my hands, you know? And I wasn't even figuring out how to get more. I was like, I'm just going to get as messed up as possible right now and figure this out. My mom's texting me, how did the drug test go? How did the drug test go? I'm like, I'm still here. I'm still here. I've been there for 6 hours, apparently. And I roll up a joint, and I go walk outside of my house. And as I go to light this joint, I look up in the sky, and I see it right away, right? But it was just this crystal clear blue sky day. And the humidity was there, and it just gave me a deja vu moment of the morning of 9/11. And I'm sitting there, and I'm crying. For me, in addiction, crying never happened. Crying happened when I was in a situation where I needed to get out of. Crying was when I had withdrawal. But it didn't happen when I felt genuine emotions. But I never really felt them anyway. But that was the whole point, you know, to numb the pain and not remember and just forget everything that happened. But I look up in the sky, and I see this crystal clear blue sky day, and I start crying. I say, Dad, please give me a sign. I need help. And immediately, this fly lands on the railing I'm leaning against. And I'm like sitting here like, what the hell is going on? You know? My dad dies. The next day, September 12th, my mom was told, look out for the signs. And that night, a fly landed on her nightstand. And that was her sign my dad wasn't coming home. And that was my dad. You know, we took that as being my dad. That was the sign from my dad. That fly would stay in our house for the next 6 months, and it would be around all the time in the next years. All the years, really. But it would come in moments when you didn't least expect it. And in this moment, in July 2015, it lands on this railing. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to get help. I walk inside. I call up a detox facility. I say, listen, I need a bed tonight. I'm not sober. I'll be sober in a few hours. I need a bed tonight. Like, we don't have a bed. I can get you in on Friday. I was like, okay. I'll take it. And I go to that detox facility, and it was the first time in my life I surrendered. It was the first time that I had a God moment that I actually listened to. And God willing, this summer I'll celebrate 6 years of sobriety. I got sober July 24, 2015. And my life has changed immensely, you know. I never thought that I would be someone like this, standing in front of a room like this, telling my story, you know. But the life I've been given now, I've given a second chance on life. I've given a new lease on life, and I'm embracing it for what it's worth, you know? I do this because I feel fulfillment out of it, you know? I quit finance. I hated it. I hated the person that made me be. I hated the fact that I was obsessed with money. And, you know, now the beauty of it is that I can go to anywhere, but I can go and talk to kids and tell them what happened to me, you know? Because if one of you thinks of me and thinks of my story the next time you're at a party and you're offered a Xanax, or the next time you're at a party and you're offered a drink, maybe you don't want to drink. It's okay not to want to drink. It's okay to be okay with who you are, you know? I didn't believe in peer pressure, you know? I didn't think that I was a person who would be influenced by other people, but I was, you know? I cared about what other people thought, you know? I cared about what other people thought about me. And if you didn't like the person I was, well, I didn't like the person I was either. So that didn't really matter at the end of the day. I had to come forward about everything that I went through as a kid. When I got sober, I got a call from one of my brothers who told me he was just creeped out by that same uncle. And I took that for something. I took that for, if he's calling me about this, if something's happened already, something's going to happen. And if it's not going to happen to my brother, it's going to happen to someone else. So I went into action mode, and I came forward, and I talked about it, and I pursued legal action, and that guy went to jail for a few years. He's out now, and I was filled with fear, thinking what was going to happen when he came out, but I'm okay, and the fact of the matter is, not every day is good, right? Just because I'm sober today, God willing, because of a higher power, but just because I'm sober doesn't mean things are always good, I still deal with life, I've started to kind of say to myself and think about this more and more, like, that it is a gift, people have asked me numerous times, would you go back in time and never do it, like do it again? It's like, yeah, I would do it again, because I learned who I am. I had the most personal growth ever by being able to come forward, by being able to work through my struggles, and some of these days it makes a life, they say, and to me, it's a beautiful one. So thanks again, guys. I really do appreciate it, and have a good one.